Hello everyone, good to see you again. It's David here, and what have I got for you this time? Well, hopefully it's going to be a quick repair job. See this little fella? Well, he had his gun barrels bent when he came off a shelf and his flying stand is missing. So, they need to be fixed and replaced. Let's be about it. Okay, as you can see, these gun barrels did get quite badly mangled, so I am going to have to cut them off. Now, one thing that I notice is that they actually seem quite short and stubby, so I'll probably make them a little bit longer than that. Now, for constructing the new barrels, I have invested in some 1mm round polystyrene rod, and I need to cut that into some shorter lengths. So I've cut it into 7 lengths. 6 of them are shorter, 1 is slightly longer. That is going to be the central core one, and you'll see why I've made that a bit longer in just a second. Now, to help in construction, just to help to hold the pieces together while I glue them, I'm going to grab a couple of bits of sticky tape and I'm going to put it onto my cutting mat so that the sticky side is up. So I'll start off by popping the central core on. Just get that stuck down like that, and then on either side I will wiggle into position the adjacent barrel, so that'll hold those together. Then we'll have a couple of dabs of polystyrene cement just down the length of it, and then we'll drop these into the groove like that and like that. So we're starting to build up the hexagon shape of a Gatling gun barrel. I'll let that dry for a little while and then I'll turn it over and I'll add the final 2 barrels on the underside. And then that's it up onto its back, and a few dabs of glue on this side, and pop the final barrels in place. Right, then leave that to dry. Glue's all dried, it's one nice piece. I've marked off the centre, and just at the edges where I need to even things up. But the next thing I want, this is shrink wrap. And I want 4 pieces of this. Like that, and now it's a wee bit more on the glue, and I'm just going to use this essentially to hold it in place. Thread that on the end, and I'm taking it right the way up to that centre line, and then on the other side like so. And I am basically just using this to hold it and tack it in place, because I am going to use a heat gun to shrink it down once it is all done. Right, and then that gets left to dry, and that shouldn't be too long. This is a hot air gun, and I am going to be using this. If you have one in the house, kids, please do ask your parents for help with this part, because these things can hurt. You can also use a hairdryer on quite a high setting. It does take a little bit longer, but it still does exactly the same thing. And this is the reason why I left that centre one with a longer kind of stick to it, so that I can grip it with a pair of pliers and not get my fingers in the way of the hot air gun. And I'm going to use this at quite a distance, because the last thing I want to do is melt the plastic and make me gun barrels all wobbly. So here goes. So now that that is all locked in place, I'll slice it down, trim the edges, and we'll get it glued in place. Let's get on with the flying base. Now, this is oven baked polymer clay, and if I recall correctly, the base kind of slotted into that oval underneath. So we'll get some of this softened and press it in to get the indent, and then press it down. And I'm also going to just quickly put an arrow on so that I know that that is the front for when I'm constructing it. Lift it out, just give it a wee flatten back down, and that can go off into the oven. while that's in the oven baking off, let's get on with doing the base itself. So this is just some scrap core flute, nice and wide. I've made it roughly the dimensions of the vehicle there, and I've marked off the edges where I want to trim it down, and I've also marked off a centre so that I can attach a light on the underside, and I'm going to cut that out so that I can get to the bottom and be able to turn it off and on and replace the battery. So I'll get that trimmed down. Base is cut out, so that is good. I've even got a hole in there so I can get at the switch and the battery compartment for the tea light. Next thing I need to do is dismantle this, because I don't want the flame part and I don't want all of the top cover, because I want a little bit more of the light inside showing. So I need to get this apart so that I can actually see which bits I still need. And it should just be a case of popping that out like that. Now, just having a look inside, this tab here is what keeps the switch in place, so I still need that, but pretty much all the rest of it can go. So I'll get that cut down now. Okay, so I've got most of that top cut away, and what that now means is that when it's on the base, most of the light from the LED can be seen kind of from the sides rather than just pointing straight up out the top, which is what we want, because we want our smoke to glow around the sides. Now, one other thing that I am going to do, and hopefully this shows up on camera, I'll just turn that one on. The light from this one does tend to point very much straight up, so you don't get that same side glow. Now, this is a different LED, and as you can see, you get far more glow from the side just with it having that sort of coloured coating. So what I am going to do is replace that LED with that one, because I want more of that side glow. I'm also going to use the hot glue method for joining on another LED in parallel. If you want to see the hot glue method of joining LEDs together, I'll leave a link up top so you can click on that and follow along, because I do want more light coming out of it, so I'm going to have more than one LED on the underside there. I'll crack on with that. So the double LED array has been fitted. I've got it glued onto the base, and as we can see, both of them light up, so that is good. Right, that gets put to one side for a second, and that is our piece of polymer clay that was in the oven. Now I'm going to be attaching, sorry, I'll bring this back, I'm going to be attaching this on top like that. So what I need to do is obviously prop it up, and I'm just going to be using some toothpicks for that. So what I need to do is drill, just using a pin drill here, some holes in so that the toothpicks can stick into it. Now I'm doing them ever so slightly offset at an angle, because this is quite a sort of short, narrow piece compared to the base itself, and I'm going to need the sticks off at an angle so that they're going to clear the LED array, and they'll just glue in like that, see? So that's the stand glued in place, and it's nice and stable, and the vehicle sits on there quite nicely. So that's all good. Final stage, and I've put some paper down because this is the messy bit. What I have here is a mixture of grey paint and straight PVA, and I've put it on a plate because rather than, you know, applying it, I'm just going to be dipping. And I've got some cotton wool balls. Now, one thing you need to watch out for is that when they're in sort of ball shape like this, they are quite dense, so light does have a bit of a problem getting into it. So you kind of got to unfurl it a bit, and I'm not doing it on all of it, just doing it on kind of the bottom, and we will pop that on there and press it down, and we can always tease it out thinner if the light isn't shining through. Okay, another one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a base of them around the bottom, and then I'll use the same mixture to sort of add on to the top, and that'll give us a little bit of shadow. And I haven't used black because we want it quite light to go along with the white of the smoke, but it will give a little bit of a shadow just where those joins are so that it doesn't look like it's just pure white smoke. There is that sort of like dirtiness in there as well. And another bit just on the front. And as you can see, I'm just working it up like that. So I will crack on with this and hopefully be able to show you the finished product in not so very long. It's quite a simple repair job when it comes down to it, and quite a simple piece to add to it to just set it off there. I also, and I didn't show this on camera, seem to recall that there was an aerial at the back, and again that piece is missing, so I've just added one, and that is the little ties that hold packs of socks together. That's just been snipped down. Anyway, that's another project in the bag. If you do recognise this thing, please leave us a comment down below. I'd love to know what the game system was that it came from, because I do realise that they were quite modular. And yeah, it was definitely last century that I bought this one, so quite possibly it's long out of print. However, let us not dwell on the past because there are more crafting shenanigans ahead. If you want to follow along, please do hit that subscribe button, like it, leave a comment if there's anything that you want me to cover, and I'll see you around. Tatty byes.